My family banned me from my sister's wedding. But when the officiant asked if anyone had a reason to object, the groom raised his hand, called out my name, and read my letter out loud. Then the room fell silent. If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, hit that subscribe button. I promise this story will show you that justice sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. Stay until the end, because this twist is worth every second. My name is Madison. I'm 29 years old, a software engineer living in Portland, and for most of my life I've been invisible. Not literally, of course, but in the ways that matter. In my family, I might as well have been a ghost. I'm the youngest of 3 daughters. There's Victoria, my oldest sister. She's 35 now, a corporate lawyer at one of those firms where they bill clients $800 an hour. She's always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Then there's Sophia, the middle sister. She's 32, an elementary school teacher with that wholesome Instagram perfect life. And then there's me, Madison, the afterthought. Let me take you back to when I was 10 years old. It was my birthday, October 15th. I'd been excited for weeks, counting down the days the way kids do. I'd asked for a small party, just family, maybe a cake with strawberries, because those were my favourite. But that morning, I woke up to an empty house. There was a note on the kitchen counter in my mum's handwriting. Went to help Victoria move into her new apartment. There's cereal in the pantry. Love you. No happy birthday, no cake, no acknowledgement at all. Victoria was 21 and moving into her first post-college apartment across town. Apparently that was more important than my 10th birthday. I sat at the kitchen table eating Cheerios alone, watching the clock tick toward noon, then 1 o'clock, then 2. They didn't come home until almost 6 that evening, laughing and carrying boxes, smelling like pizza from whatever place they'd ordered lunch. My mum looked surprised when she saw me sitting on the couch. "Oh, sweetie, you're still up? Did you eat something?" I remember nodding, not trusting my voice. Victoria didn't even glance my way. She was too busy talking about her new apartment, about the view from her window, about how adult she felt. I'd saved up $23 from my allowance over months. The next day, I walked to the grocery store 4 blocks away and bought myself a box of cupcakes, 6 chocolate cupcakes with vanilla frosting. I ate one by myself in my room and told myself birthdays weren't that important anyway. My mum found the empty box in my trash later that week. She said, "Don't be so dramatic, Madison. Birthdays aren't that important." I was 10 years old, and I learned that lesson well. Fast forward to when I was 22. I'd just graduated from Portland State University with a degree in computer science, summa cum laude, top of my class. I'd worked my arse off for 4 years, balancing a part-time job at a coffee shop with a full course load because my parents had spent most of their savings on Victoria's law school tuition. They'd helped Sophia through her teaching credential program too, but by the time it was my turn, well, student loans exist for a reason, right? I sent the graduation announcement months in advance, blocked out the date, sent reminders. The ceremony was on a Saturday morning in June, perfect weather, the kind of day where everything feels possible. I had 2 tickets reserved for my parents. I'd even printed out directions to the parking lot. The morning of graduation, I got a text from my mum at 7 a.m. "Sophia has a bad cold. We need to stay home to take care of her. So proud of you, honey." A cold. Not even the flu. Not pneumonia, a cold. I walked across that stage in my cap and gown, heard my name called, shook the dean's hand, and looked out into the audience at the empty seats where my parents should have been. I smiled for the official photo anyway. Later, I saw on Victoria's Instagram that she'd posted a family brunch that same morning. "Nothing better than Sunday morning pancakes with the fam," the caption read, with a photo of her, Sophia, and our parents at some trendy cafe downtown. Sophia looked perfectly fine in the picture. No runny nose, no tissues, just a mimosa in her hand and a smile on her face. Nobody called to congratulate me until 3 days later. My dad phoned while I was at work and said, "Hey kiddo, heard you graduated, good job. When are you thinking about settling down and getting married like your sisters?" I'd just earned the highest academic honour my university could give. His first question was about marriage. I got my first real job 4 months later. A software engineering position at a tech company in Portland with a starting salary of $120,000. I was 22 years old and about to make more money than either of my parents had ever earned. I called my mum, so excited I was shaking. I thought maybe this time would be different. Maybe this achievement was big enough to matter. She said, "That's nice, dear. Listen, I'm at the store picking up things for Sophia's engagement party. Can I call you back?" She never called back. But there was one moment, one tiny moment, where I let myself hope things might change. Last year, just before Christmas, I'd been dating Daniel for about 6 months. He's a graphic designer, funny and kind and patient with all my family baggage. I'd never brought anyone home before, but Daniel asked if he could meet them. He said he wanted to be part of my life, all of it, even the hard parts. So I asked my parents if I could bring him to Christmas dinner. My mum said yes, of course, we'd love to meet him. I should have known better. Daniel and I showed up on Christmas Eve with a bottle of wine and a homemade apple pie he'd spent all afternoon baking. My family was already there, gathered in the living room with champagne glasses and wrapped presents piled under the tree. Victoria was there with her husband Marcus. Sophia was there with her then-boyfriend Michael. Everyone looked so picture perfect, like something out of a holiday catalogue. Daniel tried. God, he really tried. He asked my dad about his work, complimented my mum's cooking, told a funny story about a design project that had everyone laughing at dinner. But there was this coldness, this distance my parents kept the entire night. They asked Victoria's husband about his promotion. They asked Sophia about her classroom. They barely looked at Daniel. After dinner, we all moved to the living room for presents. There were gifts under the tree for everyone. Victoria got a Tiffany necklace from our parents. Sophia got a weekend getaway package to wine country. Marcus and Michael both got expensive whiskey. Even they got gifts, and they weren't even officially family yet. There was nothing for me, not a single wrapped box with my name on it. I tried to laugh it off. "Guess Santa forgot about me this year," I joked, but my voice cracked halfway through. My mom didn't laugh. She just said, "Oh, Madison, we thought you were too old for presents. You're almost 30. Victoria had gotten a $300 necklace. She was 34, but somehow I was too old for presents at 28. Daniel saw my face. He reached over and squeezed my hand under the table, and I held on like I was drowning. Later, after Daniel went home, after everyone had left, and it was just me helping my mum clean up in the kitchen, I found her putting away the leftover pie. She hadn't served it during dinner. She'd put out a store-bought cheesecake instead. "Did you not like the pie?" I asked. She didn't even look up. "Oh, I'm sure it was fine, but I'd already bought the cheesecake, so." That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling when I was 12, I finally let myself cry. Daniel called me at midnight because he knew. He just knew. "They don't deserve you," he said quietly. "They're my family," I whispered back. Family shouldn't make you feel like this. But what was I supposed to do? They were all I had. So I did what I'd always done. I told myself I was being too sensitive. I told myself it wasn't that bad. I told myself that next time would be different. Then came the night that changed everything. 3 months ago, Sophia announced she was getting married. She and Michael had been dating for 2 years, and he'd proposed on a beach at sunset, the whole fairy tale moment. Everyone was thrilled. The group chat exploded with messages of congratulations. Even I sent my genuine happiness for her. Sophia had always been the sister I felt closest to, the one who sometimes remembered I existed. 2 weeks after the engagement, my parents hosted a family dinner to start planning the wedding. I drove over on a Thursday night after work, exhausted but trying to be present. This was important. This was family. I wanted to be included. When I walked in, everyone was already there. Victoria had brought wine. Michael was there, laughing at something my dad said. They were all gathered around the dining room table with a laptop open, looking at venues and flower arrangements. I grabbed a plate of pasta and sat down, ready to be part of the conversation. But as the night went on, I noticed something. Every time I suggested something like, "What about those vintage string lights for the reception?" Or, "Have you thought about a late afternoon ceremony so the photos have that golden hour lighting?" someone would talk over me or change the subject. My ideas evaporated into the air like they'd never been spoken. Around 8 o'clock, I got up to use the bathroom. The hall bathroom was occupied, so I headed toward the kitchen to use the one upstairs. That's when I heard their voices coming from the kitchen. The door was cracked open just an inch, enough to hear everything. Victoria's voice. "Honestly, do we even need to invite Madison to the wedding? She'll just make it about herself somehow." I froze in the hallway, my hand still reaching for the doorknob. My mother's voice. "She never really fit in with us anyway. She's always been so different." My father cleared his throat. "Let's just keep the guest list to people who actually matter. Make it intimate." Sophia laughed, actually laughed. "Maybe we can just send her a card or something after. She'd probably rather be working anyway." I stood there in that hallway for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 seconds. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands went numb. Something inside my chest cracked open, something that had been holding me together for 29 years. I walked back into the dining room, grabbed my purse and said I wasn't feeling well. Nobody asked if I was okay. My mum just said, "Okay, drive safe," without looking up from her laptop. I sat in my car in their driveway for 20 minutes before I could stop shaking enough to drive. When I got home, I didn't cry. I just sat on my couch in the dark and finally let myself understand the truth. I was not part of this family. I never had been. The wedding planning continued in the group chat. Sophia sent updates about dress fittings and cake tastings and seating charts. Everyone else responded with heart emojis and excitement. I watched from the sidelines, not contributing anymore, waiting. 2 weeks after the engagement dinner, invitations went out. Sophia posted in the group chat, "Save the dates are in the mail. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone." I checked my mailbox every day for a week. Nothing came. I finally texted Sophia directly. "Hey, I haven't gotten my invitation yet. Did you send it to my current address?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Oh, Mum said we're keeping it really intimate. Just close family." Just close family. As if I wasn't family at all. I didn't respond. What was there to say? A week later, I saw on Instagram that Sophia was having a bridal shower. Victoria had posted a photo of all of them together. My mum, aunts, cousins, family friends, all dressed in pastels with mimosas and a bride-to-be banner behind them. Nobody had told me about it. I drove to my parents' house anyway. I bought a gift, a set of luxury bath towels I knew Sophia had on her registry. I showed up with a smile, pretending I'd known about it all along. My mum opened the door and her face went blank with surprise. "Madison, oh, you're here." "Of course," I said brightly, holding up the gift bag. "Wouldn't miss it." She didn't step aside right away. She just stood there, blocking the doorway, looking back over her shoulder at the party happening inside. Finally, she said, "Well, I suppose you're here now?" I spent 3 hours at that bridal shower sitting at a table in the corner by myself. People came and went, chatting with Sophia, laughing with Victoria, hugging my mom. Nobody sat with me except for one of Sophia's old college friends, who didn't know any better. We talked about her job in graphic design, about living in Portland, about anything except the fact that I was clearly not supposed to be there. When it was time for presents, Sophia opened mine last. She pulled out the towels and said, "Oh, towels, thanks, Madison," with the enthusiasm of someone receiving a pair of socks. Victoria got her a weekend spa package. The room erupted in oohs and ahs. The next event was the dress-fitting party. I knew about it only because Victoria posted the date on Instagram stories. I wasn't invited. I saw the photos later, all of them in the bridal shop trying on bridesmaid dresses, holding champagne flutes, laughing in front of those three-way mirrors. Sophia captioned the post, "My people." I wasn't one of her people. Then came the bachelorette party. This time there was an invitation, but I knew it wasn't real. Victoria sent it in the group chat with the caption, "Everyone's invited. Madison, you're invited too, but we know you're probably too busy with work." It was a setup, a courtesy invitation designed to make them look generous while making it clear I wasn't wanted. If I said yes, I'd be the one imposing. If I said no, I'd be the one choosing not to come. I said no. "Thanks, but I have a work deadline. Have fun." Nobody tried to convince me otherwise. I saw the photos on Instagram the next morning. They'd gone to a wine resort in Napa. Everyone looked beautiful and happy and like they belonged together. I zoomed in on Sophia's face in one photo. She was laughing so hard, her eyes were closed. I couldn't remember the last time I'd made her laugh like that. 2 weeks before the wedding, my phone buzzed at 11 at night. A text from my mom. "Madison, we need to talk about the wedding." My heart sank. I knew what was coming. The next morning she called. I answered on the second ring, sitting at my kitchen counter with coffee I couldn't drink because my stomach was twisted in knots. "Madison," she started, her voice that fake gentle tone she used when she was about to say something terrible. "We've been thinking about the wedding, about the—" "Okay," I said, "we've decided it's better if you don't attend." The words hung there in the air between us. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, waiting for my response. "What?" I finally managed. "Why?" "Victoria mentioned that you've been very negative lately. We just don't want any drama on Sophia's special day, you understand?" "I haven't been negative," I said, and my voice was shaking now. "I haven't said anything." "Exactly," my mum said, as if that proved her point. "You've been distant, not really engaged with the planning. This is Sophia's day, Madison, not yours. We need you to respect that." "I am respecting it," I said. "I've stayed out of the way. I haven't caused any problems." "And we appreciate that," she said in that patronizing tone that made me feel 6 years old again. "But we think it's best if you just don't come. It'll be easier for everyone." "I'm her sister," I whispered. "And she loves you," my mum said quickly, like she was reading from a script. But this is what's best for the family. The family. The family that I had never really been part of. Fine, I said, because what else could I say? I won't come. Thank you for understanding, my mom said, and she sounded relieved. This is the right decision. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there with my phone in my hand, staring at the screen until it went dark. Then I did the only thing I could think of. I opened the family group chat, the one where Sophia had been posting every single wedding update for months, and I typed out a message. I am family. I hit send. Read receipts showed that all 4 of them saw it within seconds. Nobody responded. Not my mum, not my dad, not Victoria, not Sophia. The silence was louder than any words they could have said. That afternoon, my dad sent me a private text. This is a family matter. You understand? I stared at those words for a long time. A family matter. But I wasn't family enough to be included in it. I didn't respond to him either. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by photos from my childhood. There's one from when I was 7, all 5 of us at the beach. I'm off to the side, partially cut out of the frame. There's one from Sophia's high school graduation, where I'm standing in the back row, barely visible behind my dad's shoulder. There's one from Victoria's wedding 4 years ago, where I'm at the edge of the photo, mid-blink, like I was an afterthought someone remembered to include at the last second. In 29 years, I couldn't find a single photo where I was centred, where I was the focus, where I mattered. I didn't cry that night. I was past crying. I just sat there in my living room as the sun set outside my window, and I let myself feel the full weight of the truth. I had spent my entire life trying to earn a place in a family that had already decided I didn't belong. The next morning, I woke up and made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to cause a scene or send angry texts or show up where I wasn't wanted. But I also wasn't going to stay silent. I opened my laptop and started writing. Everything. Every birthday they forgot. Every graduation they missed. Every Christmas where I sat alone while they celebrated together. Every moment they made me feel invisible. I wrote for 3 days. The first draft was angry, full of accusations and rage. I deleted it. The second draft was self-pitying, begging them to see what they'd done to me. I deleted that too. The third draft was just the truth. Simple, clear, undeniable facts. No drama, no exaggeration. Just what happened. I titled it, To Sophia on Your Wedding Day. Daniel came over on the 3rd night. He found me at my kitchen table, surrounded by tissues and empty coffee mugs, staring at the screen. They banned you from your own sister's wedding, he said, reading over my shoulder. I nodded. This isn't right, he said, sitting down next to me. You deserve to be heard. But how? I asked. They won't listen to me, they never have. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Write everything down, not for revenge, for closure. And if they won't read it... He paused, thinking. Maybe someone else will. I looked at him. What do you mean? Michael, he said. The groom. He seems like a good guy. What if he knew the truth about the family he's marrying into? It was crazy. It was potentially disastrous. It was the kind of thing that could blow up in my face. But I was so tired of being invisible. I spent another 2 days refining the letter, making sure every word was true, making sure there was no exaggeration, no manipulation, just facts. At the end I wrote, I'm not telling you this to ruin your day. I'm telling you because you deserve to know the truth about this family. If you choose to continue their pattern, that's your choice. But I won't be silent anymore. I love you, Sophia. I always have. I just wish you loved me back. I read it 40 times before I finally worked up the courage to send it. I found Michael's email through Sophia's wedding website, the one she'd set up for RSVPs and gift registry. I attached the letter in a short message. Michael, you deserve to know the truth about the family you're marrying into. Read this or don't, but I won't stay silent anymore. Madison. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I did something I'd been planning for weeks. I booked a work trip to San Francisco, deliberately scheduled for the same weekend as the wedding. I announced it in the group chat. Heads up, I'll be out of state that weekend. Important client meeting, best wishes to everyone. Nobody responded. Nobody asked which client or why it couldn't be rescheduled, or whether I could come back in time for at least part of the wedding. The silence confirmed everything I already knew. I thought that was it. I thought I'd sent my letter into the void, that Michael would ignore it or delete it, or maybe show it to Sophia, and they'd all have another laugh about dramatic Madison making things about herself. I thought the story was over. I had no idea that Michael had read every single word, that he'd spent the week before the wedding thinking about what I'd written, that he'd looked through Sophia's family photos and noticed I wasn't in any of them, that he'd started asking questions nobody wanted to answer. I had no idea that my letter was about to detonate in the middle of that church like a bomb with 200 people watching. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what I was doing while all of this was happening. Let me tell you about the moment my phone started exploding with messages. And I finally understood that sometimes justice doesn't come from the people who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from the people who refuse to let them keep hurting you. The morning of Sophia's wedding, I was sitting in a conference room in San Francisco, 300 miles away from the church where my sister was getting married. My phone was on silent, face down on the table in front of me, while I presented quarterly projections to a client. The meeting was real, the work was real, but part of me had scheduled it specifically for this day, this exact time, because I needed to be somewhere where I had a purpose, where I mattered. I had no idea what was happening back in Portland. I didn't check social media that morning. I didn't look at my phone during the breaks. I'd made a promise to myself that I would get through this day by pretending it wasn't happening. By the time the wedding was over, by the time everyone was dancing at the reception, I'd be on a plane home. I'd have survived it. That was my plan. Stay away, stay silent, move on. I didn't know that Michael had been carrying my letter in his jacket pocket for the past week. I didn't know he'd read it so many times the paper had started to soften at the creases. I didn't know that he'd looked through every family photo Sophia had shown him and counted how many times I appeared versus how many times I didn't. I didn't know that he'd started asking questions, careful questions at first. "Where's your youngest sister?" he'd asked Sophia during a dress fitting. "Madison's just busy with work," she'd said, waving it away. He'd asked my mum at the rehearsal dinner. "Oh, Madison chose not to come," she'd said with a tight smile. "She's always been a bit distant from the family." He'd asked Victoria point blank 3 days before the wedding, "Why isn't Madison in any of the wedding party photos?" Victoria had looked at him like he'd asked why the sky was blue. "Because she's not in the wedding party, obviously. But she's Sophia's sister." "Some people just don't fit," Victoria had said, already turning back to her phone. Michael had gone home that night and read my letter again. Then he'd made a decision that would change everything. The wedding was at a historic church in downtown Portland, the kind with stained glass windows and wooden pews that had been polished by 100 years of Sunday services. 200 guests filled the seats. My mum wore champagne-coloured silk and cried happy tears before the ceremony even started. My dad looked distinguished in his tuxedo, ready to walk Sophia down the aisle. Victoria stood at the front in her emerald bridesmaid dress, the maid of honour, the golden child even at someone else's wedding. Everyone kept asking where I was. My mum had her answer ready. "Oh, Madison had a work emergency. She sent her love." She said it so smoothly, so convincingly, that people nodded sympathetically and moved on. Poor Madison, always working. Poor Madison, missing her sister's big day. Nobody questioned it. Why would they? My absence was so normal, so expected, that it barely registered as unusual. The ceremony started exactly on time. The processional music played. The bridesmaids walked down the aisle in their matching emerald dresses. Michael stood at the altar with his groomsmen, nervous and excited and in love. Then came Sophia, absolutely radiant in her white gown, my father's arm linked through hers, and the whole church stood. I've been told she looked beautiful. I've seen the photos since then. Her dress was lace and tulle, her hair in soft waves, her makeup perfect. She was crying happy tears as she walked toward Michael, and everyone was crying with her. It was everything a wedding should be. Perfect, romantic, a fairy tale. The officiant began the ceremony. Standard vows, traditional readings, everything going according to plan. My mum was dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Victoria was beaming from her place beside Sophia. Everyone was exactly where they were supposed to be. Then came the moment, that moment that happens at every wedding, the one that's usually just a formality, the question that nobody ever actually responds to. If anyone here has any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. The church was silent. Of course it was silent. It's always silent at that part. Except this time, someone moved. Michael raised his hand. Sophia's smile faltered. She laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, some kind of cute moment he'd planned. "Michael, what are you—" "Actually," Michael said, his voice clear and steady, carrying through the church, "I have something to say." The silence that followed was the kind that makes your ears ring. My mum stood up from her seat. My dad took a half step forward. The officiant looked confused, glancing between Michael and Sophia like someone had deviated from the script and nobody had told him. Victoria hissed, "Michael, this isn't funny." "No," Michael agreed, reaching into his jacket pocket. "It's not funny at all." He pulled out my letter. The pages were folded, worn from being opened and closed so many times. He unfolded them carefully while 200 people watched in complete silence. "This letter," he said, holding it up so everyone could see, "is from Madison." Sophia's face went white. My mother sat back down heavily. Victoria's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Madison is Sophia's youngest sister," Michael continued, his voice getting stronger now. "And she's not here today, not because of work, not because she chose not to come, but because she was banned from attending." "Michael," my mom said, standing again, her voice sharp. "This is not the time or place—" "No." Michael cut her off, and his tone was firm enough that she actually stopped talking. "This is the time. This is exactly the time, because if I don't read this now, I'll be marrying into a lie." He looked at Sophia and his face softened just a little. "I love you. You know I do. But I can't stand at this altar and promise to be part of your family without addressing what your family has done." Then he started reading, out loud, in front of everyone. "Dear Sophia," he began, "congratulations on your wedding. I wish I could say this in person, but I wasn't invited, not because of distance or cost, but because Mom, Dad, and Victoria decided I don't belong. I've been told the church was so quiet you could hear the traffic outside through the closed doors." Michael kept reading. I want to share some moments they might not have told you about. When I was 10 years old, everyone forgot my birthday because Victoria was moving into a new apartment. I bought myself cupcakes with my allowance money and ate them alone in my room. When Mum found the empty box, she told me not to be dramatic, that birthdays weren't important. Victoria's face had gone red. She was looking at the floor. When I graduated, summa cum laude from Portland State, nobody came to my ceremony because Sophia had a cold. Not the flu, not something serious. A cold. I walked across that stage alone and smiled for the camera while my family was having brunch at a cafe downtown. I saw the photos on Instagram later. Sophia looked perfectly healthy. She was drinking mimosas. My dad tried to interrupt. This is ridiculous. We don't have to. Yes, Michael said firmly. We do, he continued. When I got my first real job, a 6-figure salary at 22 years old, I called Mom to share the news. She said, "That's nice," and hung up because she was buying decorations for Sophia's engagement party. Last Christmas, I brought my boyfriend Daniel to meet the family for the first time. Everyone got presents under the tree. Victoria got a Tiffany necklace. Sophia got a weekend getaway. Even the boyfriends and husbands got gifts. There was nothing for me. When I asked about it, Mum said I was too old for presents. I was 28. Victoria is 34 and got a $300 necklace. Sophia was crying now, mascara running down her face, but these weren't happy tears anymore. At the bridal shower, Michael read, I showed up with a gift even though I wasn't officially invited. Mum looked surprised to see me. I sat alone for 3 hours. Nobody talked to me except one of Sophia's college friends who didn't know any better. At the dress fitting, I wasn't invited at all. I saw the photos on Instagram. The caption said, "My people." I wasn't one of Sophia's people. Someone in the audience gasped. I later learned it was one of Sophia's college friends, the same one who'd sat with me at the bridal shower. She remembered. Michael looked up from the letter, making eye contact with my mother. 2 weeks before this wedding, Madison received a phone call. She was told directly that she was banned from attending. Not asked to skip it, not given a choice. Banned. The reason given was that she'd been too negative. But the truth is, she'd just been too quiet, too easy to erase. He turned to the next page. His hands were shaking slightly now, but his voice stayed steady. I'm not telling you this to ruin your day, he read. I'm telling you because Michael deserves to know the truth about the family he's marrying into. This family has a pattern of making people invisible, of deciding who matters and who doesn't. If you choose to continue that pattern, that's your choice. But I won't be silent anymore. I love you, Sophia. I always have. I just wish you loved me back. Signed, Madison. He folded the letter carefully and put it back in his pocket. The church remained absolutely silent. Then Michael pulled out his phone. He'd prepared for this. He'd known he might need proof, because families like mine are good at rewriting history, at making the victim look crazy. I didn't want to believe this letter at first, he said, so I looked at evidence. He held up his phone, and somehow he'd connected it to project onto the screen the church used for displaying song lyrics during services. Everyone could see. First image, the family group chat. My message, I am family. Read receipts showing all 4 family members had seen it. 0 responses. Second image, the text from my mom. Madison, we need to talk about the wedding. Followed by her phone call notes where he'd screenshotted, decided it's better if you don't attend. Third image, Victoria's Instagram post from the dress fitting. Caption, my people photo showed my mum, Sophia, Victoria, 3 bridesmaids and 2 cousins. No Madison. 4th image, Christmas photo from last year. Everyone holding gifts, laughing around the tree. Me sitting on the edge of the couch, no gift in hand, clearly trying to smile. The evidence kept coming. Sophia's bachelorette trip. Graduation photos where I was cut out of the frame. Birthday celebrations I wasn't invited to. A decade of receipts showing a pattern so clear that nobody could deny it. I counted the family photos Sophia showed me over the past 2 years, Michael said. 47 photos. Madison appears in 6 of them. She's centered in 0. In most of them, she's partially cut off or in the background. Someone in the 3rd row stood up. It was one of Sophia's college friends, an older woman named Patricia. I'd met her once at a graduation party years ago. "Wait," Patricia said, her voice cutting through the silence. "Madison? The sister who helped Sophia pass calculus senior year? Who tutored her for free every weekend for an entire semester?" Sophia was sobbing now, trying to cover her face with her hands. Another voice, this time from the groom's side. One of Michael's college friends. "Madison donated blood for Sophia last year, didn't she? I remember you telling me about that. Your sister drove to the hospital at 3 in the morning because Sophia needed a transfusion after her car accident. She paid Sophia's security deposit on her first apartment," someone else called out. "I remember because Sophia told me her parents wouldn't help and her sister saved her." The memories were coming back. All these people remembered me. They remembered the things I'd done, the ways I'd shown up, the sacrifices I'd made. They just hadn't noticed I'd been slowly erased. My mother stood up, her face pale and furious. "This is completely inappropriate. Michael, you're making a scene based on a dramatic letter from an unreliable—" "Show me one photo," Michael interrupted. "One photo from the past 5 years where Madison is centered, where she looks happy, where she's included as an equal member of this family." My mom opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She couldn't. "This wedding was supposed to be about bringing families together," Michael said. "But I can't marry into a family that treats people as disposable. That decides someone's worth based on whether they're convenient." He turned to Sophia. His face was filled with sadness, not anger. "I love you, but I need you to understand what your family has done, what you've allowed to happen, and I need to know that you'll do better, that we'll do better." Sophia was shaking, her bouquet trembling in her hands. I didn't realize it was that bad." "You didn't want to realize it," Michael said gently, "because realizing it would mean having to do something about it." Victoria finally found her voice. "This is insane. Madison is just being overdramatic like always. She's manipulating you with this letter, making herself the victim. Did you or did you not say 2 months ago at the engagement dinner that the family should keep the guest list to people who actually matter?" Michael asked. "Did you or did you not suggest that Madison didn't need to be invited?" Victoria's face went red. She looked at Sophia, then at our parents, then back at Michael. That was taken out of context. What context makes it okay to tell someone their sister doesn't matter enough to attend her wedding? Nobody had an answer. The officiant cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps we should take a break, let everyone calm down." "No," Michael said. "We're not taking a break. We're addressing this now." He walked down the altar steps, past my crying mother, past my speechless father, past Victoria, who was trying to become invisible herself now. He walked to the back of the church and opened the doors. "This wedding isn't happening until Sophia's family acknowledges what they've done, until they apologize, until they prove that Madison matters to them as much as anyone else in this room. Then he walked out. 200 people sat frozen in the pews. Sophia stood alone at the altar, her dress a cloud of white, her face streaked with tears. The officiant didn't know what to do. The musicians didn't know whether to start playing. Everything had stopped. My mother tried to take control. "Everyone, please, there's been a misunderstanding. If we could all just—" But people were already standing, whispering. Some were walking out. Others were taking out their phones, texting, calling, capturing this moment that would be talked about for years. Sophia finally moved. She lifted her dress and ran down the aisle, out the church doors, calling Michael's name. I learned all of this later, of course. In the moment, I was 300 miles away in San Francisco, finishing my client presentation, completely unaware that my world was being turned upside down. My meeting ended at 2:30. I gathered my materials, shook hands with the clients, and walked out of the building into the bright California afternoon. I'd survived. The wedding was over by now. Sophia was probably having her first dance as a married woman. My family was probably toasting with champagne, and nobody was thinking about me. I pulled out my phone to call an Uber back to my hotel. 47 missed calls, 89 text messages, 23 voicemails. My phone started buzzing immediately. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. I answered. "Madison," he said, and his voice was strange, excited and scared and breathless all at once. "Where are you?" "San Francisco, at the client meeting." "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "You need to sit down." "Daniel, what?" "The wedding didn't happen. Michael read your letter, out loud, in front of everyone." "Madison, he stood at the altar and exposed everything, your whole family in front of 200 people." I sat down right there on the sidewalk outside the office building. People walked around me. I couldn't move. "What do you mean he read my letter?" Daniel told me everything. The ceremony, the objection, Michael pulling out my letter, the projector screen showing the receipts, people standing up and remembering all the things I'd done that my family had erased. Michael walking out, the wedding falling apart. "It's all over social media," Daniel said. "People are posting about it. The hashtag Justice for Madison is trending locally. Madison, everyone knows." My phone buzzed with another call, then another. I ignored them all. "He stood up for me," I whispered. "He couldn't not," Daniel said. "Not after reading your letter, not after seeing the proof. Madison, he chose you over marrying the love of his life. He chose doing what's right." I sat on that sidewalk for 20 minutes, watching my phone explode with notifications, messages from cousins I hadn't talked to in years, from family friends, from Sophia's college roommate, from people I didn't even know, and then finally 3 messages that made my hands shake. From Sophia. "Madison, please call me. We need to fix this." From my mother. "This is all a big misunderstanding. Come home so we can talk." From Victoria. "You've ruined Sophia's wedding. Are you happy now?" I stared at Victoria's message for a long time. Even now, even after everything, she was blaming me. I was the problem, not the decades of erasure, not the cruelty, not the systematic exclusion. Me, for finally telling the truth. And that's when something shifted inside me, something final. I opened a new message, added my mom, dad, Victoria and Sophia to it, typed carefully. I didn't ruin anything. I simply told the truth. For 29 years, I accepted being the invisible child. I told myself it was normal, that I was too sensitive. But Michael's action today proved something I've always known but was afraid to admit. I'm not crazy. This pattern is real. I don't want revenge. I don't want apologies that are only coming because you got caught. I want you to understand that you can't treat people like they don't exist and then demand they forgive you when it becomes inconvenient. I love you all, but I can't be part of a family that only remembers I exist when they need something from me. I wish Sophia and Michael the best if they choose to move forward, but I won't be there. This isn't about holding grudges. This is about choosing peace over pain. Goodbye. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Read receipts showed they all saw it within seconds. This time the responses came immediately. My mother called. I declined it. She called again. Declined. She sent a text. Madison, please, let's talk about this like adults. My father sent. You're still our daughter. Family is forever. Sophia sent. I'm so sorry. I didn't see it. I should have seen it. Please give me a chance. Victoria sent. Fine. Run away like you always do. Play the victim. I turned off my phone. That week was chaos. My phone wouldn't stop ringing, even when I turned it back on. My mother called 15 times a day. My father showed up at my office building in Portland on Tuesday. Security had to escort him out when he refused to leave the lobby. He kept saying, I just need 5 minutes, just 5 minutes to explain. Victoria posted on Instagram, family is forever, through good times and bad. We choose forgiveness and growth. The comments section was brutal. People who'd been at the wedding, people who'd seen the posts and heard the stories, they weren't buying it. Forgiveness requires acknowledging what you did wrong first. Maybe choose to see your sister as a person. This is some missing reasons energy. Sophia didn't post anything. She went completely dark on social media. But I started getting messages from unexpected people. My old calculus teacher from high school. Madison, I always noticed how they treated you. I'm glad you're finally standing up for yourself. Sophia's college roommate. We all saw it. We just didn't know how to help. I'm sorry we didn't say anything. Daniel's mother, who I'd only met twice. You deserve better, sweetheart. You always have. And then, 3 days after the wedding, I got a message from Michael. Madison, I'm sorry I had to read your letter publicly, but I'm not sorry I did it. You deserve to be heard. Sophia and I are taking time apart. She's in family counselling with your parents and Victoria. She's starting to understand, I think. She's starting to see what she couldn't see before, or wouldn't see. Thank you for being brave enough to write that letter. Thank you for trusting me with your truth. You saved me from making a mistake. Michael. I read that message 20 times. Then I finally responded, thank you for listening. That's all I ever wanted, for someone to listen. A month went by. I didn't go back to Portland. I requested permanent remote work from my company, and they approved it. I started looking at apartments in Seattle, somewhere new, somewhere I could start fresh. My mother's calls decreased from 15 a day to 5 a day to 2 a day to 1 a day. I never answered. My father sent a letter to my apartment, actual snail mail, 3 pages front and back, his handwriting shaky in places. I read it. He apologized. He said he didn't realize how bad it had gotten. He said he loved me. He'd always loved me. He just didn't know how to show it. He said Victoria had always been so demanding, so loud, and Sophia was so easy, so sweet, and I was so independent, so self-sufficient, that they just assumed I didn't need them. We took your strength for your permission to neglect you, he wrote. That was wrong. That was so wrong. It was the closest thing to a real apology I'd ever gotten from him. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. Victoria sent one text 2 weeks after the wedding. I didn't realize how bad it was. I'm sorry. That was it. No explanation, no acknowledgement of specifics, just those 8 words. It was something, I guess, more than I'd gotten before, but it wasn't enough. Sophia called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. "Madison," she said, and her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying. "Please don't hang up." I didn't hang up, I just waited. "I'm in therapy," she said. "Twice a week. Mum and Dad and Victoria come to one session a week with me. We're talking about everything, about how we treated you, about how I let them treat you." "Okay," I said. "Michael called off the wedding. Not forever, he says, but until I can prove to him that I understand what my family did, what I did." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want her to lose the person she loved. "Don't be," Sophia said. "This is what I needed, what we all needed. Madison, I looked through every photo album in Mom and Dad's house last week. You're barely in any of them. And when you are, you're on the edge, always on the edge. I never noticed. How did I never notice?" "You weren't looking," I said quietly. "I should have been looking," she said, and she was crying now. "You're my sister. I should have protected you. Instead, I just forgot about you, like you didn't matter." "Yeah," I said, "you did." "I don't know if you can ever forgive me," Sophia said. "I don't know if you should forgive me, but I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better, even if you're not there to see it." We talked for an hour. She told me about the therapy sessions, about how our mother kept insisting it was all a misunderstanding, that they'd loved me just as much, they'd just shown it differently, about how the therapist kept gently pointing out that impact matters more than intent, about how our father finally broke down crying in the third session, admitting that he'd always been harder on me because I reminded him of his own sister who'd cut off contact with their family when he was young. "He was afraid you'd leave," Sophia said. "So he pushed you away first. That's what he said. How messed up is that?" "Pretty messed up," I agreed. Before we hung up, Sophia said, "Michael's been asking about you. He wants to know if you're okay." "Tell him I am," I said. "Tell him thank you." "He said you saved him," Sophia said softly, "from marrying into a family that would have treated our kids the way we treated you. He said you gave him a gift, even though you didn't owe him anything." 6 months passed. I moved to Seattle, found a beautiful apartment with a view of the Sound, got promoted to senior engineer at work. Daniel and I started talking about moving in together. I started a blog about family estrangement, writing under a pseudonym, sharing my story and hearing from hundreds of others who'd lived through similar situations. The comments section became a community of people who understood, who'd been the scapegoats, the forgotten ones, the invisible children. My mother sent a handwritten letter every week. I read them all. Some were still defensive, still trying to explain away their behaviour. But slowly, over the months, they changed. She started acknowledging specific moments. "I'm sorry I forgot your 10th birthday. I'm sorry I didn't come to your graduation. I'm sorry I told you that you were too old for Christmas presents while giving Victoria jewellery." Specifics. That's what I'd needed, not vague. "I'm sorry if you were hurt" statements, but actual acknowledgement of actual harm. My father called once a month, leaving voicemails. He didn't ask me to call back. He just talked about his day, about seeing something that reminded him of me, about wishing he could go back and do everything differently, about understanding if I never wanted to talk to him again. Victoria sent me a package 4 months after the wedding. Inside was a framed photo. It was from my college graduation, the one nobody had attended. Someone, maybe a friend, had taken a photo of me crossing the stage in my cap and gown. I was smiling, genuinely smiling, and I looked proud. Victoria had somehow tracked down the photo and had it professionally framed. The note inside said, "You deserve to have someone there. I'm sorry it wasn't me. I'm proud of you. I always should have told you that. I cried when I opened it. Then I hung it on my wall. Sophia invited me to her and Michael's wedding. They'd rescheduled for 6 months later, small and intimate, just immediate family and close friends. The invitation came with a letter. I understand if you don't want to come. I understand if you never want to see me again. But I'm getting married, and my sister not being there would be wrong. It would be continuing the same pattern. So I'm asking, not expecting. And if you say no, I'll respect that. But please know that there's a seat for you. There's always been a seat for you. I just never made sure you knew it was there. I called Daniel. What do I do? What do you want to do? He asked. I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to go, to see if things really have changed. But part of me is terrified it's a trap, that I'll get there and it'll be the same, that they'll forget I matter the second it's inconvenient again. Then go, Daniel said, but go for yourself, not for them. Go to see if you can be in that space and still maintain your peace, and if you can't, you leave, no guilt, no apology. So I went. The wedding was in a small garden in April, 50 guests, everything soft and beautiful. When I arrived, Sophia was waiting by the entrance. She saw me and her face crumpled. She walked over, slowly, like she was afraid I'd run. You came, she whispered. I'm here, I said. Not quite the same thing. She nodded, understanding. Your seat is in the front row, next to Mum and Dad, next to Victoria, where you should have been the first time. The ceremony was simple and beautiful. Michael and Sophia wrote their own vows. She promised to see him, really see him, every day, to never take his presence for granted, to make him feel like he mattered, always. She cried through the whole thing, and so did I, because I knew those vows weren't just for Michael. At the reception, my mother approached me carefully. Thank you for coming, she said. I know you didn't have to. No, I agreed. I didn't. I'm glad you did anyway. She paused, twisting her hands. I've been going to therapy on my own, not just with the family, just me. The therapist asked me to write down every memory I have of you growing up. I could only come up with 7 clear memories. 7. Madison. You lived in my house for 18 years, and I can only clearly remember 7 moments with you. She was crying now. That's not because you weren't memorable. It's because I wasn't paying attention. I was so focused on Victoria's achievements and Sophia's needs that I just stopped seeing you, and that's unforgivable. It is, I said, and she flinched. But maybe it's not unforgettable. She looked at me with hope in her eyes. Does that mean... It means I'm here, I said. It means I'm willing to see if things can be different. But I'm not promising anything. I'm not promising forgiveness or reconciliation or happy family dinners. I'm just promising I'll be open to the possibility. That was 9 months ago. Things are different now, but not fixed. Probably never fully fixed. My family and I talk on the phone every few weeks. Sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes old patterns try to creep back in, and I have to call them out. You just talked over me. You forgot to ask about my promotion. You assumed I'd be free without asking. And the difference is, now they listen, now they apologize, now they try. Victoria and I met for coffee last month. It was tense at first, but then she said, I've been thinking about what Michael said, about the photos, so I went through all of mine. She pulled out her phone and showed me. She'd created a folder, every photo she had of me, chronological order. 53 photos over 15 years, and you're centered in 4 of them. 4. Yeah, I said, I'm going to do better, she said. I'm going to take more photos, and I'm going to make sure you're in the center of them, where you should have been all along. My dad and I went to a baseball game together last week. He bought me a beer and said, "I'm sorry I asked when you were getting married instead of congratulating you on your first job. I'm proud of you, Madison. I should have said that 1,000 times by now." Sophia texts me almost every day. Little things. Memes that made her think of me. Questions about my life. "What are you reading? How's work? Tell me about Seattle." She's trying. They're all trying. And me. I'm learning that healing isn't linear. Some days I'm angry all over again. Some days I see an old family photo and feel that familiar ache of exclusion. Some days I wonder if I should have just walked away completely, made it clean. But then I remember Michael standing at that altar, reading my letter, refusing to stay silent. I remember the people who stood up in that church and said, "Wait, I remember Madison." I remember Sophia's therapy sessions and my dad's letters and Victoria's framed photo. I remember that sometimes the only way to fix something broken is to smash it completely first, to expose every crack and fracture so everyone can see exactly how damaged it was. And then, maybe, if everyone is willing to do the work, you can try to build something new. Not the same, never the same, but maybe something better. Do I forgive them? I don't know yet. Some days, yes. Some days, no. Most days it's complicated, but I know this. I'm not invisible anymore. I matter. My presence is noticed. My absence is felt. And when I walk into a room, my family sees me. All of me. Finally. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong in your own family? Like you were the one they could forget without consequence? Drop a comment below. You're not alone in this feeling. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with someone who's been erased. Let them know they deserve to be seen. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to take up space. For everyone who was told they were too sensitive. For everyone who was left out of the family photo. For everyone who finally chose themselves. This story is for you. You deserve better. You always have.